Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here and investing your time in improving your English and yourself. You have had days when you studied a lot, but then you stopped for a few days. You felt like you tried hard, but the result did not improve. The problem is not how much you study, but how you use your effort. People who speak many languages do not wait until they have a long free time to study. They use small moments in the day, the moments that most people ignore. A short video while eating, a podcast while moving, a few English sentences in your mind while waiting. These actions are so small that you may think they do not matter, but these small and daily exposures slowly change your brain. Your brain does not need big study sessions. It needs gentle but repeated practice. When you study a lot and then stop, your brain does not have enough time to keep the information. But when you come back every day, even for a short time, you tell your brain that this is important. Over time, your brain starts to keep what you repeat often. The change does not come immediately. It grows slowly. So slowly that you do not notice it, until one day you suddenly understand a sentence that you have heard many times before, not because you learned something new, but because you had enough exposure for your brain to connect everything. You may not notice it, but translating in your head is slowing you down. Every time you want to speak, you are not really speaking. You are doing many steps in your mind. You think in Vietnamese, you find English words, you check grammar, then you fix the sentence. This process makes you lose your natural flow, and more importantly, it makes you feel that you are never ready to speak. Fluent speakers do not remove translation at once, but they slowly depend on it less. They start with simple things. They look at an object and name it directly in English. They describe simple actions in their mind using English. They do not try to make perfect sentences. They only try to connect meaning with words. At first, you will feel uncomfortable. You will feel wrong, unsure, and confused. But that is a good sign because you are building a new connection in your brain, a connection that does not go through Vietnamese. When this connection becomes stronger, you will not need to translate anymore, and then speaking becomes much easier. You do not have to think before speaking. You just say what you think. You may spend a lot of time studying, but if the language only appears when you sit at your desk, it will always feel strange. Good learners do not limit the language to one place. They let it become part of their daily life. They listen to music when they relax. They watch videos not to study, but to enjoy. They read things they care about, even if they only understand some parts. What matters is not how much you understand. What matters is how long your brain stays with the language. Language is not only vocabulary and grammar. It is sound, rhythm, and how people express feelings. You cannot learn these things by writing notes. They need time to grow in your mind. Just like you cannot like a song the first time you hear it, but if you hear it many times, you start to feel it. Language is the same. When you have enough exposure, you start to feel what sounds natural and what does not. And then you don't have to try so hard to remember. You simply recognize it. You may know a lot, but you still stay silent, not because you have nothing to say, but because you do not want to be wrong. You want everything to be correct and perfect before you speak. But this is what stops you from speaking. Good speakers do not have this rule. They accept that they will make many mistakes. They speak, get corrected, and speak again. They make mistakes again and learn again. Each mistake gives them a small lesson, and these small lessons grow very fast. They do not see mistakes as failure. They see them as feedback, a signal to improve. While you try to avoid mistakes, they use mistakes to learn. That is why they improve faster. You do not need to be brave right away. You only need to accept that mistakes are part of the process. And when you are not afraid of mistakes, you will start to speak more. You may have delayed speaking for a long time. You think you need more vocabulary, more grammar, more time. But the truth is, you will always feel not ready. Good learners do not wait until they feel ready. They start when they still know very little. They use what they have. They speak simple sentences. They repeat simple patterns. They do not try to impress. They only try to communicate. At first, you will feel weak or not good enough, but this stage is necessary because when you speak, you turn knowledge into real skill. You start to see what you are missing. You start to see where you make mistakes, and then your learning becomes more clear. You do not study in a vague way anymore. You study to fix real problems, and this helps you improve much faster. You may be used to learning words one by one. You write the meaning and try to remember it, but when you need to use it, you don't know how. Because language does not work with single words, it works with groups of words. Good learners understand this. They do not learn only words, they learn how to use them. They learn phrases, sentences, and context. When they learn a new word, they always learn how it appears in a sentence. This helps them avoid building sentences from zero. They already have blocks to use, and when they speak, they just combine these blocks. This makes speaking faster, more natural, and more correct. You do not need to learn more. You need to learn better. One phrase you can use is more valuable than 10 words you only know the meaning of. You may feel frustrated because you forget quickly, but forgetting is not the problem. Forgetting is how your brain works. The problem is if you come back at the right time or not. Good learners do not try to remember everything at once. They accept forgetting, but they do not ignore it. They come back after some time. Not too early, not too late. Just enough to make the brain try to remember again. This effort makes the memory stronger. They also do not learn a word in only one situation. They meet it in many different contexts. This helps them understand it more deeply, not only the meaning, but also how to use it. And when a word appears many times, it is no longer something you need to study. It becomes something you recognize immediately. You may have started learning with strong motivation, but over time you feel tired because learning becomes something you must do, not something you want to do. People who learn for a long time do not depend too much on discipline. They depend on interest. They find things that make them want to come back, a movie they enjoy, a topic they like, something that makes them curious. They do not force themselves to learn things that feel too far. They start with what feels close, and then they slowly expand. When learning feels easier, you will stay with it longer, and in the long term, that is what matters. Not how fast you learn, but how long you can continue. You may have set high goals. You want to be good quickly. You want to see results in a short time, but when it doesn't happen, you feel disappointed. Good learners do not see language like this. They do not put pressure on being fast. They focus on continuing, a little every day. No need to be perfect. No need to stand out. Just don't stop. And this consistency makes the difference. After a few months, they look back and see real progress, not because of one big step, but because they did not quit the small steps. You do not need to change everything at once. You just need to start with one small thing. Study less, but more regularly. Speak earlier, even if you make mistakes. Listen more, even if you don't understand everything. And most importantly, do not turn learning into pressure. Let it become a natural part of your life. Because when you stop trying too hard to be good quickly, you will start to improve in a more stable way. And this time, you will not stop in the middle. If you find this video interesting and helpful, please give me a like and subscribe.